The Unicorn in the Garden was based on the 1939 short story by humorist artist James Thurber. Former Disney animator Stephen Basustow was a fan of the writer and had wanted to produce a feature film of Thurber's work. But funding for such an undertaking was a big issue. So, Basustow turned to another former Disney animator named William Hertz, whom he had often collaborated with. He was hoping that Hertz could help adapt a Thurber story as a short through United Productions of America. The Unicorn in the Garden was the final decision. The story focuses on an unnamed everyday man who is under the thumb of his controlling and nagging wife. One morning, the man sees a unicorn eating roses in the garden. When he tries to tell his wife about it, she takes advantage of his so-called insanity and snitches on him in the hopes of having him committed to the asylum. What helps this cartoon to stand out is how closely the animation was inspired off of James Thurber's original illustrations. Bringing an illustrator's particular art style to life was unheard of at the time. Said Hertz, "I studied every drawing he ever did. Using color bothered me at first, but I thought if he ever got around to it, he probably would do it this way, as long as it was strongly linear." Story-wise, I don't think the writing is that strong. The ending especially feels a little forced. But then again, this story is supposed to be a humorous modern fable. I guess I can't take it that seriously. Also, I can't help but think it's quite possible that when Thurber had written the original story, he was inspired off of the famous canvas painting The Unicorn Rests in the Garden. Depending on how you interpret it, both the painting and Thurber's story seem to focus on the subject of marriage. Some art lovers see the unicorn in the painting as a tamed young groom bound by holy matrimony, hence the golden chain around its neck representing the chain of love, and the golden fence that surrounds the unicorn seems to be in the shape of a wedding ring. In Thurber's story, the unicorn's very existence in the garden is the key that throws the man's marriage into question. The only difference is that, in Thurber's story, marriage is seen in a comically negative light, while the painting seems to show the binding of marriage in a more positive light. The unicorn is smiling and seems to be nice and snug in its little circle. Because if it wasn't, the fence isn't really that high. The unicorn could just jump right over it if he wanted. That's my theory. But anyway, back to the cartoon. Another thing I should bring up is the music by David Raksin. The cartoon has sparse dialogue, so UPA brought in Raksin to help tell the story and express the emotions through his music. Even James Thurber was impressed, writing a letter to Raksin saying, "I may not be a music maker, but I enjoyed your score. And I remember with affection the recorder that spoke up when the unicorn appeared. It sounded exactly right for unicorns." The Unicorn in the Garden is not as publicly known as many other cartoons, but it still has fans and admirers in the animation industry. According to the daughter of director William Hertz, she said that her father considered The Unicorn in the Garden to be his finest work. But despite all of the effort that went into it, producer Stephen Basustow was reportedly disappointed with the final result. So much so that he even refused to submit it to the Academy Awards. But if history is any guide, you don't always need to win an Academy Award for your work to become immortal.